Hey, cousins, check in with me. You know what I was thinking about? We don't talk about how growing up in mixed families, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about what that looks like when you have siblings on both sides. We don't talk about what that looks like when you have to be the oldest on one side and the middle on the other side, or you're the baby on this side and you're the middle child on this side. Nobody talks about the double syndromes that you go to when you're a mixed sibling. And what I mean by that is, you don't have the same parents on both ends. Like I have brothers by my mom and then I have a sister by my dad. Like nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about when you grow up, the little cheap shots that get taken, and then it's always an uproar within the parents because no, my child didn't do that. No, my child didn't do that. Not my child didn't do that. Nobody talks about that. Cousins, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about how one sibling will literally hate you because of how the parent feels and never learn the truth for themselves. Like nobody talks about how it's okay for you to do it. But it's a problem when I do it. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about we all just got in trouble, but I really didn't have nothing to do with that. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about you just got us all in trouble, but because, I'm the kid that's visiting, I'm the one that did it. Now, how I know where the stash was? I don't live here. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about how you get in this massive amount of trouble just because you're a mixed sibling. Nobody talks about Christmas time. When you get the little gifts, the low gifts, you get pencils in a box. And everybody else is getting, I don't know, new shoes, new outfits, new toys, stuff like that. No, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about getting your hair pulled when you show up with new hairdos and then you're being questioned like, what happened to your hair? Y'all was playing like that? Man, kids will be kids, not knowing the whole time. Like, siblings will be siblings and they'll literally be jumping you in the corner and, I don't know, blaming it on you. Like you ran into the couch by yourself. Nobody's talking about the games that'll get played with you and you're the person getting hurt. Like, let's play, I mean, when I tell y'all, it was, listen, listen, I'm just saying, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about how you get old enough and you learn how to subtract, add, and divide, and then you start multiplying, and then you be like, wait, so you how old? And I'm how old? And your birthday when? And we how old apart? Mm. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about it. We don't normalize the behind the scenes with siblings. Like we don't talk about how you can take cheap shots and then play victim when that shot get given back. Like, you know how, I don't know if you know, but like we ain't got the same mama, so you be like yo mama. And I be like, yo mama. And then we do the yo mama game, but now your feelings hurt because I know something about your mama that you don't know nothing about my mama. See, we don't talk about that. We don't normalize that. We don't normalize that. We don't normalize the mental anguish that goes in or that even gets developed in the process of having blended siblings. Cause like on one side of the family, you gotta remember, these birth dates and these favorite colors and favorite teams, favorite whatever. And then over here, it's like, well, now this side of the family, they football crazy, turkey dogs and chips. Like nobody talks about the level of multitasking you have developed based off having dual households in the summertime. Because at this person's house in the summer, y'all can play outside in the water all day. Just don't come in the house wet. And then on this side of the family in the summertime, y'all can't go get wet because everybody allergic to beach water. But it's the summertime. I mean, I don't know, but we do not normalize what happens when everybody's adults and start having kids. We do not normalize the truth and being accountable to not repeat the cycles. We don't normalize these things. I was just sitting there thinking that, cousins, we don't normalize that. And then of course, if you get old enough, if you make it to the age where you and your siblings can determine by yourselves, the kind of parents you really had and who was really the villain and who was really the bad guy and who was really the good guy. Once you and your siblings sit and kind of have those conversations, we don't normalize that. We don't normalize having to figure out things about your grandparents that obviously you should have known. I'm telling y'all, I didn't know my grandfather was an identical twin until I thought his identical twin was my granddad, and then it was like a cruel joke. But again, we don't normalize these things because, that's what happens. But yeah, let's normalize what blended families look like now. See, we talk about it when kids are little. Make sure that, you have a real good relationship with your parents, with the parents, whether it's multiple moms or multiple dads, whatever, it's not my business. But, normalizing how to have it for the kid. Nobody talks about what the result of that looks like. Nobody talks about what the product of having a healthy co-parenting upbringing looks like. We don't talk about it enough. And we don't expose what an unhealthy co-parenting looks like in the aftermath of upbringing. We don't disclose and we don't be transparent about the mental trauma that it leaves us, that the underlying jealousy that it causes between siblings, the unwritten, oh, I hate when you come around because things change. We don't normalize these conversations in the reality in which they are. But hey, it was on my mind today, cousins. I just thought we should probably normalize that. We should probably normalize being like, hey, I'm a product of a single parent household, yet I had the ability to be raised in a dual parent household. However, if there's no respect given, then there's no respect received. Give what you want. You know what I mean? You want respect, you give respect. You want grace, you give grace. If you don't want nobody to say yo mama, then you don't say nobody's mama. If you don't want to, if you don't want to, you know what I mean? Because again, dual upbringing means most people, most kids, me particularly myself, I think more than one way because I've had to for so long. So not only am I going to come at you this kind of way, but I'm going to also come at you about 2 or 3 other kind of ways because I've already had to figure out how to do that. But, what does that look like? What can we normalize the resolve, the results, and what that is? Just a question. Hey, cousins, check in with me.